Above the Arctic Circle, where mountains rise like stone pillars from the ocean, begins a journey into one of Norway's most dramatic landscapes, the Lofoten Islands. This hike was about immersing into nature's raw, untamed beauty and finding the serenity among the lakes, peaks, and fjords of Lofoten. Join me as I walk across one of the many islands of Norway's magical Lofoten. The second day began with Bodo still wrapped in the mellow mood of the morning. The plan for this day: ride the ferry across Vestfjord, the Arctic strait that separates mainland Norway and Lofoten, passing through several small islands to reach the village of Moskenes. From there, take the bus to Ramberg, where my trek across Moskenes Island will start. It was just early in the morning as I glided away from Bodo's sheltered harbour. A pale light draped the coast in soft grey and rose. The sky was still overcast. Beneath my feet, the ferry's steel hull hummed its steady heartbeat, an invitation to an adventure waiting across the strait. The ferry passed through several small islands, and as the shoreline faded, the Vestfjord folded into an endless canvas of slate blue water. Morning light barely fractured through the thick clouds, painting streaks of gold on restless waves. I pressed my hand across the cold rail, feeling every misty spray from the sea, tiny reminders that we're voyaging into raw, untamed beauty. Then, on the starboard side, land sliced through the horizon. Dark silhouettes rose abruptly from the sea. Those are Lofoten's iconic spires, although most of them were still covered by the clouds. The mountains seemed to hover, as if drifting on the water surface. With each passing minute, Moskenes drew nearer. Scarlet fishing huts dotted the shorelines like beads on a necklace. The ferry's bow slowed, grinding against the ramp with a reassuring thud. And finally, I reached the Lofoten Islands, but the journey to my planned starting point of the trek was not over yet. I still had to ride the bus to Ramberg. I settled into a window seat. Through the glass, I watched islands drifted by like memory fragments, each one whispering of solitude and discovery. Fjords appeared glass smooth and motionless. Mountains stood like sentinels on each side, reflecting perfectly on the dark blue water below. The bus tipped forward on a gentle descent. Below, Ramberg's beach unfurled like a pale ribbon against the fjord's green depths. Finally, I was standing at the starting point of the real adventure. I stepped on the white sand, each grain compressed under the weight of my steps. In front of me, dune grasses bent toward the sea, and mountains stood guard like ancient gods. The wind carried the scent of salt and spruce, a bracing invitation to explore. My journey through Lofoten Islands started here. I gazed over the peaks beyond. My heart pounded with excitement. After the long trip from Bodo, I could finally feel the crisp northern air. The path towards the village of Ramberg awaited. I never wasted any time and continued on with my trek. In the village, time moved at its own pace. The scent of fresh coffee drifted from the corner cafe. Every weathered wall and painted door told the story of fishermen's lives bound by these fjords. I followed the road along the fjord, with Volandstinden slowly becoming more prominent compared to the surrounding peaks. My trail veered north, passing through the valley that led to Skelfjorden. continued on towards the eastern trail along the foothills. My breath became deeper as the path required more effort to traverse. I paused for a moment. My gaze followed the shores of the fjord below, cradled by steep mountain range on each side. The trail was soft with dried grass and moss, and the path wound upward through damp stone and tangled roots. To make my life easier, I left my bag beside a boulder along the trail and then continued on to my quest to reach the peak ahead. The incline grew steeper, and my breath deepened even more. Each step was deliberate. Each pause was a chance to look back at the fjord shrinking below. My boots tested the edges. Breath became a steady metronome that kept pace with each careful step. The clouds, almost into an inversion, hugged the ridge's edge and Volandtinden's peak. Higher on Volandstinden, the world simplified to stone, sky, and constant music of the wind. Dark ribs of rock rose like backbone of an old earth, fractured and proud. The summit ridge narrowed, and the exposure felt honest. There was nowhere to hide from the elements, only to meet them. The clouds still lingered, like they were hiding a surprise behind their shadows. Clouds drifted at eye level, sometimes swallowing a piece of view and letting it drop away again, as if rehearsing the scene. I waited for a moment, and then the cloud cover dissipated. When the cairn came into view, the landscape opened into an impossible sweep. Fjords cut into land like deep ink, islands dot the sea, and Ramberg lies below as crescent of turquoise and ochre. Standing on the summit, wind pressing on my skin, the ache of the climb settled into bright, quiet joy. The reward was not only the panorama, but the accumulation of small moments. The grit under nails, the cold bite on cheeks, the calmness of the fjord, the stubborn blooms of heather on impossible ledges. I let the scene anchored itself into memory before turning toward the descent, carrying the summit's clarity down through the gravel while following the same trail. I then collected my heavy rucksack and followed the obscure western path down the hill. The descent via the western path offered a different experience to the mountain, slower, more intimate, and less exposed to the raw ridge wind. I followed the less trodden path until I reached the main road. Walking the shoulder, the sound of tires became occasional punctuations to the more constant music, wind in the low scrub, the slap of waves against the rock, and the distant call of seabirds. The road also offered views, white sand coves, basalt shelves, and the sea's liquid palette shifting with every step. Approaching the Fredvang bridges, the road narrowed. Before crossing them, I paused to take in more of the views. And then another traveler on a bicycle paused beside me to snap photos of the mountains. We then walked together without much ceremony, two travelers finding that company eases the long road. Conversation about past travels and extraordinary experiences seasoned hikers keep became an easy rhythm. Finally, we reached Fredvang, a compact village, economical in details. We checked into the hostel and met other fellow travelers. I laid my kit down, felt the muscle tension loosen as gravity took its share of the work. Settling into the hostel's small porch, I watched the last of the day pull into the fjord and tuck the summit's wind into my ribs, a bright colorful horizon that will keep until the morning.